Hey, welcome back to the Infamous Podcast. This is Brian.
This is Darryl.
This is episode 289, the Bad News Batch. All right, so we are trying something new since we've been doing a whole bunch of stuff over the last 2 weeks with extra bonus reviews and bonus episodes and things like that. This is going to be a midweek episode. I don't know if we're going to do it often or whatever, but since this is actually following our typical episode format, we're just calling this episode 289.
The Bad News Batch.
All right, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys. No,
you're welcome.
Yeah, so obviously this week we are talking about episode 3 of the Bad Batch replacements. And then we have news about AT&T and Discovery. Some cool Michael Jai White news. Words are hard. Snake Eyes we got some reveals. I have thoughts. Even though, are you a big G.I. Joe guy?
I used to be.
Yeah, see, I never was, but I definitely have thoughts about all this.
I was a huge fan of Cobra. I didn't like G.I. Joe themselves. So.
Cobra. And then we have news on Shang-Chi and the Eternals and some battles they're facing at some potential box offices. So, yeah. All right, let's hop right. Oh, wait. Before we hop into it, Darryl. So we're recording this on Sunday. We normally record on Friday. Last week, we recorded the Sunday up. Today's the episode that came out the day we recorded this one, all the way back on Monday. So it's been a weird week. But it was nice because on Friday night, Darryl got to go do stuff. I got to go do stuff. And then Saturday, Angel and Haley had an eye doctor appointment. So I was kind of left my own devices for an hour. And I was just walking around Walmart because it was right there. Walmart, get your stuff together and get some toys back in the toy section. But 2, they had, so you know Twizzlers, how they have it's like a twist, and then they have the pull-in peel Twizzlers.
Right.
Okay, so licorice is probably my favorite candy, but specifically cherry flavored licorice. But I hate the pull-in peels. I always look for the cherry twist, typical regular Twizzlers, and no one ever has them. And so Walmart had them, and I totally bought 5 bags.
But I will also echo your sentiment because I told you I went to Walmart last week, and I went through the toy section, and they had absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
horribly disappointing.
It was sad. To quote Az, it was sadsies. It made me feel badsies. So, if you guys aren't watching Heels versus Babyface on YouTube, Az is amazing. Darryl turned me on to that, and you should definitely check it out.
Yeah, he's great.
So, and just shout out to the Thinking Critical guys, to Wes in particular. It's so good. The comic news is so good. We can only hope to be a quarter as good as they are over there. But yeah, those are 2 cool channels to follow and check out, besides ours. So, anywho, getting on with the show. AT&T is, it says here, according to Yahoo News, AT&T is preparing to merge media assets with Discovery. So Discovery Plus just launched a couple months ago. And Discovery Plus is HGTV, the Food Network, Oprah stuff, Chip and Joanna Gaines, Magnolia Network, all the kind of the fun home improvement stuff. Hulu has a lot of it, but it's old. This is all the current stuff. And yeah, so it says here the idea is to combine Discovery's reality TV empire with AT&T's vast media holdings, building a business that would be a formidable competitor to Netflix and the Walt Disney Company. Any deal would mark a major shift in AT&T's strategy after years of working to assemble telecommunications and media assets under one roof. AT&T gained some of the biggest brands in entertainment through its acquisition of Time Warner Inc., which was completed in 2018. So yeah, this is crazy. I was listening to the Neon and Geeky Sparkles on Clownfish TV about this, and I think a huge thing to consider here is that that's the big thing that HBO Max is missing, right? That slice of real life.
Right.
That everybody else has. Like Disney has it with Nat Geo, obviously, but Disney also has it with Hulu.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting, and Netflix has it because Netflix has a bunch of that stuff on. Like Netflix, one of Netflix's biggest shows is that British Bake Off show. Have you ever watched that?
I have not watched it, but I remember when it came on there. It popped it popped up on one of my, when I turned it on at one time, and I had no idea what it was.
So like Angel's obsessed with it. That's her favorite thing on Netflix, and I'll be honest, like I don't mock it. I watch it unironically, and I'm excited for when like the bakers do well, and I'm empathetic for when they do bad. And it's a really kind of a cool show. But they have a bunch of stuff like that. So that is that. So I feel like AT&T would be smart to do this, and if they could roll all of it under like the HBO Max banner, that wouldn't be the worst thing. And like Peacock just like rolled WWE up under them to add more, entertainment to what they have. I don't know. Have you ever gone on the Peacock?
No, I have not.
So
like, there's nothing really I want to watch like on there.
Yeah.
I've thought about getting, just doing a trial, like finding something that I want to watch and just doing a free trial or something just to check it out.
Well, they have
I
like
haven't done that yet.
it's the only place you can watch The Office now and Parks and Rec and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I bought The Office on Vudu, like the whole,
Yeah.
like every season for like $20
Yeah,
total.
I did that. I did that on iTunes 2 years ago, and same thing with Parks and Rec. Anytime something like that is $20, I buy it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I got Justified for $10 for the whole complete series on there.
Wow, that's a damn good buy.
Anyway, but so I don't know. I mean, I think this is kind of a good thing. I think the more that they can consolidate back down to like maybe 5 streaming competitors, it'll be better for everybody.
And again, like something like this is one of those things that, obviously I have Netflix. I've had Netflix for I don't even know how long. Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, just because every year I pay for the Prime for the shipping and all that good stuff. But yeah, you're right. I think because it would be interesting to see how people, if this does happen it's pretty much, it's not quite a done deal, but everything we've read, it looks like it almost is. It's just, they're waiting for a few things to go on. But yeah, because right now you have, especially about a year or two ago, you had all these streaming networks or these streaming services launching, and people were like, okay, I got rid of cable because, cable is too expensive and I want it, more of a boutique of stuff to stream. And then when you get all these streaming apps and all this, that defeats the purpose. So you're right. If you can narrow that down a little bit, people, some people will buy them all, but other people what I tended to do for certain things on like not Netflix, but some of the other stuff is I would call myself, I'd be a mercenary. I'd rent it out for a month or two, like HBO when it was the HBO Go or whatever it was back, several years ago. I would subscribe when Game of Thrones came out.
Right.
Watch Game of Thrones. Probably keep it for an extra, depending on when Game of Thrones ended. So I would have it for a couple months, for maybe 2 or 3 months out of the year. Then I would cancel, or I couldn't pause it, so I canceled my membership. When the next year came around, I did the same thing. So something like this, and this is ultimately, I think it would be ultimately good for the consumer, just because again, we're not having to look at 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 different streaming platforms. We're looking at that 4 to 6 range, and hey, like I said, you might have 2 of them that you have every month, and then you might have a couple there you say, hey, look, 6 times out of the year or 6 months out of the year, I'm going to be watching, this is on, so I'll get all my watching of these shows on, so I'll just just basically rent it out for 6 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, ultimately a good thing, I think. But again, because it's not like they can boot up the prices, because I think with this, it's just going to, make that and again, what do we always say about competition? Competition is ultimately good for the
Oh yeah,
consumer,
absolutely.
because not only do you have, as a company, have to innovate, you also have to watch your prices. So something like this, and Disney Plus, again, I won't count Disney Plus because going up to $7.99 is not a big deal.
No.
But like Netflix just raised their price to, I think, 14 or something, $15 or something like that.
Yeah, and that's just for
the second tier.
Yeah, and that's just for HD. You don't even get 4K with that.
Yeah. So yeah, there is when this does happen, whenever this rolls out, this is going to be ultimately better for the consumer, because some of these places are going to be like, okay, we better watch how we raise our prices.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. It's one of those things that the better that they can treat the consumers and show that, hey, we're trying to give you the best possible product with the least amount of upfront cost or anything like that, the better off it'll be.
Yep.
So anyway, all right, speaking of new products and things of that nature, you sent this over in a whole list of news things, and this was actually the one that spoke to me the most. Michael Jai White to launch gigantic, I love that name, studios.
I love it. Yeah.
In Connecticut. So, if you don't know Michael Jai White, you are you've lived under a rock for a long time. I mean, this dude's been in a ton of stuff. He's a great. I actually like him as an actor. I think he's great. He's a world-class martial artist, and he's done a ton of just really like interesting and different roles. He was Spawn. I think that's probably what people know him for the best.
Right.
He is who we compared Makad Brooks to with the character of Jax, because he played him in the Mortal Kombat Legacy YouTube series, and he was great. Anyway, but this article in Variety from this week was great. He's wanted to go back to his home state of Connecticut to expand Hollywood, or expand the movie industry. Let's put it that way. And he wants to provide jobs and training and apprenticeships to that community, which is exactly what people need to be doing right now. They need to be getting as far away from Los Angeles, California as possible.
100%. And again, I've always liked this guy. I used to love when his guest star appearances, when he'd be on Arrow as Bronze Tiger.
Yeah, he was. I mean, come on, he was perfectly cast at that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. One of the things there obviously they're in Hollywood. There's a way of life in Hollywood that I think does a disservice to people, like, as a whole. And also, it's not just that, but it's like the fact that like something like that is so concentrated in one area. It's always good to where you can decentralize your data management and stuff like that, in case of, say, natural disasters or something like that. But this is decentralizing, because it's also a different type of culture, in the sense of where he's putting things together in Connecticut. And the fact that he's doing this for his home state, the fact that he's creating jobs, and he's not complaining about, say, having to eat bread during lockdown or something stupid like that.
Yeah, he's giving
awesome.
back. He's giving back to his community, and
this is
not,
awesome.
And his community. Here's the great thing about it: is it's not just like one identity that it's given back to. It's giving back to his local community back home, in where he grew up, where he's got his people, where he's gonna have a support network around him. And then the other thing is, like, where in Connecticut, where it's located, it's about equal distance from Boston to New York. So, they can go and shoot in big cities if they need to have that going on. They've got rural available to, like, rural scenes, rural communities available. There's suburbs. The beach isn't too far away. There's just so much that he can do with this. And I was not aware that he wrote Black Dynamite on Netflix.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I learned that from reading the article, which I did not finish the movie, but not because I didn't like it. It's just because I can't, that's like when I had said I was going to cancel Netflix, and then I canceled it and just stopped watching everything on there. So I need to go back and finish that. But I'll never forget, he played Mike Tyson in the TV movie that was on HBO in the 90s. That was the very first.
About that. Yeah.
That was one of the very first things. But then as I was going through here, when he was in an episode of Saved by the Bell, the episode when Slater's dad was going to send him off to military school, and he was one of the MPs.
I can absolutely see that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. I found this as cool and exciting news. And this is kind of the thing we were talking about with the Daily Wire. Like, you have a group of people who are trying to make content, make movies, make things that appeal to more people, hopefully. And I definitely feel like, this is where he's going with that. And especially because, again, it's just one of these things. Like, you always want to hear about people going home and starting a business. Of course, Connecticut is giving him like some pretty good, like tax incentives and things like that. So, I mean, that's what Georgia did to get a bunch of people to go shoot in Atlanta. That's what New Orleans happened in New Orleans. Louisiana did that to get people to go shoot in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. They were like, hey, it's we're essentially going to pay you to come make movies and stuff down here. And that's why all those like Netflix movies like Powers and was it Powers? Was that the Jamie Foxx one? It was Power?
Oh, Project Power.
Project Power. Thank you. I mean, like there were probably 10 or 15 movies right there that were shot. Like the one with Adam Devine and Robbie Amell, where Adam Devine could go back in time and change what had happened, like Groundhog Day style, to try and win over Alessandra Daddario and steal her from Robbie Amell. That was done in New Orleans. I actually really like that movie, but that mainly because I love everybody in that cast. But yeah, so this is like the kind of news that I get excited to hear about and excited to read, and it's cool. It's what we need to happen.
Yeah, and one of the things you said, it's kind of like the Daily Wire, just making original content, and that's what it says. His primary focus will be to produce original projects, including action drama, Crossroads Cafe, and then, as we mentioned, the sequel to Black Dynamite. And one of the things there is creativity in Hollywood. Don't get me wrong, but all too often, how often do we get a reimagining, a reboot, a sequel, a prequel, whatever? And it's like Hollywood doesn't take chances, and hopefully things like this, like what he's doing, and maybe what the Daily Wire and other smaller studios are doing, because what I'm finding myself doing a little bit more now, especially on Netflix, because Netflix has a ton of foreign films and TV shows that are really, really good.
Yeah, and you're getting in on the ground floor of those now before they do a shitty remake in the U.S. of them.
Yeah. Yes. Well, absolutely.
Like I told you before we started, I rented a movie on iTunes this weekend called The Opening Act, starring Jimmy O Yang, who was Gene Young in Silicon Valley, and also had Cedric the Entertainer in it, and a bunch of people from like Saturday Night Live, and just Whitney Cummings has a cameo. But it was a great little like indie movie. It was a cool story. It was self-contained. Debbie Ryan was in it as well. It happened over the course of a weekend. It had, Bill Burr has a cameo in it. Ken Jeong is in it. It was this really cool cast, like, of just stand-up comics, and it was all about this guy who loved stand-up comedy more than anything, but he was really afraid to like take that next step. He gets this chance to go from Podunk, Ohio to the Improv in Pittsburgh to be the MC opener for the weekend for the character Cedric the Entertainer was playing, whose name was Billy G, who was like a former comedian, former TV star, who was back out on the road. And yeah, I mean, it's cool. So if we can get more stuff like this, it's original, it's fun, it had a bunch of cool, crazy moments in it as well. But it was just, it took place from like Friday from the week before until Sunday of the next week. And it was really good little fun movie.
Yeah, and again, like I said, we talk about doing that, and that's what I'm trying to do. It seems like we're both trying to kind of like always finding that little unique type of content where, again, it doesn't have to be like we talked about last week. Love, Death, and Robots premiered, season 2 or volume 2 as they call it, premiered on Friday, and that's something that's I like. It's season 1 is 18. It's an anthology series with different types of animation, and these stories are ranging from 7 to 15 minutes long, which is really nice and bite-sized. But granted, it's not for everybody, but just looking for stuff like that, looking for original content like Love, Death, and Robots, looking for, say, something like Ragnarok, which is a show on Netflix. Season 2 comes out, I think, next week, about humans, like the human kind of people that become the gods of the Norse, or what have you.
Yeah.
Things like that, or Dark, which I've heard. I haven't watched yet, but I've heard only good things about Dark. Original stuff in those lines that aren't in that Hollywood staple of the same type of cookie cutter design of what they've been shelling out for years. And granted, some of it's very successful, some of it's good, but just it seems like more and more things in Hollywood are becoming derivative, and something like this is what we need.
Yep.
And again, not just it's not just because it's something new, but hopefully it's going to be, because you still need to make good content,
Right.
and something like this I will definitely be keeping an eye on, just to see where it goes, and if there's some good stuff out there, making sure that I support it.
Yeah, well, 2 episodes ago we had a whole thing about them making a black Clark Kent, right? And you have Michael B. Jordan coming out and saying like, no, I don't want to be a black Clark Kent. I want to be even though he said he wanted to be he'd play Calvin Ellis or Val-Zod, he's like, I want to be something original. I want to be something new. And hopefully, with Michael Jai White being who he is, like maybe they can come up with some cool ass black superheroes, and and help push that as like new characters in creating a second round of superhero mythology.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, no, it's exciting. I definitely am looking forward to that. Okay, so moving on to the next topic. Speaking of retreads and weirdness and just tone deaf casting and story and stuff like that, Paramount Pictures released the first looks of Baroness Scarlet, Kiro, and a maskless Snake Eyes, who apparently will be able to talk and not wear a mask at all in G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes. I know we talked a little bit about how toxic that G.I. Joe fan base is.
Yeah, which I didn't even know.
I just imagine this is going over like a wet fart. I will say the picture of Andrew Koji, who plays Assam in Warrior on HBO Max, he's going to be Storm Shadow, looks pretty badass. That was my favorite thing of the released pictures. And then Samara Weaving is playing Scarlet. She was it Z and
the
babysitter, and then did you watch Mayhem yet?
No, I have not.
So having watched Mayhem, I'm kind of excited to watch her take on like an actual action role, because like she has a couple fight scenes in there, and even though she's like Rudy, she's 5'0" 100 and nothing. She kicks some ass.
Did you ever watch her? Did you ever watch the movie Ready or Not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that was another good one.
So I
But
know. Oh, sorry. So
oh no, continue.
the two big sticking points for everything though were, Henry Golding, us getting to see his perfect face, his stupid perfect face, and then Ursula Cobiero. Anyway, playing the villainess, and I'm not quite sure.
The Baroness.
Or sorry, the Baroness. Thank you. Playing the Baroness, but I'm not quite sure. Like I get Baroness from her costume. So
Okay, so my thoughts are, there's two different ways of looking at this. Do you want the backstory or do you want Snake Eyes? And most people are going to be in that second category, wanting Snake Eyes. A lot of times when you do a backstory, it's one of the things I liked about the joke. When I say the Joker, I mean the Joker in The Dark Knight, is that his origin story changed. He told two different stories about it.
Well, he told multiple. It wasn't just two.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody he told it to, it was a different story.
So having something like that, like when you have a character like that, I don't want to say you can, you can take away from what makes that character special by showing how that character got there. Instead, having that little mystery surrounding it. So as far as Snake Eyes goes, from the standpoint of the origin, it makes absolute sense that he can talk. It makes absolute sense that he doesn't have his mask on. With that being said, it again takes away the mystery. Yes, they in the comics they showed him. They're talking about and I never read the old GI Joe comics. I read the ones. I did read a little bit of the ones. Probably like that came out in the 2000s.
Sure,
but because if you look at in this article, they show some of the old school Marvel artwork from the old GI Joe comic. So I guess they show his backstory in that a little bit, but I don't necessarily mind this. What I do think, though, I don't know if they're going to have the cojones to have him get disfigured in this movie, and then if this movie does well enough, to have him in his mask and unable to talk in, say, a second movie or a GI Joe movie or what have you. Because again, that is Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes is not this guy that's doing his talking with it. Because again, Henry Golden, one of the things he said in the article is he thinks you miss some stuff when you're in a mask the whole time. And you know what? That is true. But at the same time, that's the Snake Eyes character, and that's why people like him, because not only is he a badass, but there's so much mystery surrounding him. Right. When you can't see a character's face, when you can't see them talking.
Well, and there's been multiple like kind of retcons and things like that. Like at one point, Snake Eyes was a white guy with blonde hair. So, I think the beauty of Snake Eyes is he's Schrodinger's martial artist, right? He can be whoever you want him to be. Like that's the beauty of someone who never takes off their mask. That's what made the Dredd comic so good. The Dredd movie with
Carl
Urban so good, and the Judge Dredd movie with Sylvester Stallone so bad. So here's the thing. I don't care enough about G.I. Joe to be concerned about any of this. My reaction as a complete outsider to this is I've liked Henry Golding. He's only got like 6 credits to his name. So, cool. Given a guy who's really only known for Crazy Rich Asians, a shot to headline a major franchise. Okay, neat. I like Samara Weaving just from the few things we've seen her in that I enjoyed. But for the rest of it, I don't care. I mean, like I think
Andrew Koji, by the way.
Oh yeah, Andrew Koji. Sorry, I do like Andrew Koji, but I didn't know I liked Andrew Koji until like
2 weeks
ago. So I had never heard of Andrew Koji before 2 weeks ago. Plain and simple. But yeah, so the way I'll approach this is I'll see it. Will I like the movies? I don't know. we're recording this. Actually, the trailer's going to premiere 9 minutes from when we're recording this. But yeah, I'm not super concerned. Like, this is not something that I'm so passionate about one way or the other that I care if Snake Eyes has a mask or if it's an origin and you find out why he can't talk, or doesn't talk or won't talk. I think there's a lot of leeway there. My big concern is just the stupid costume that they have Ursula Corberó in as the Baroness. It just is ridiculous, and I can't tell if it's like there's these little it looks like bubbles down her sleeve, and I thought maybe it was like the cobra symbol over and over again, but when you zoom
looks
in,
like the cobra.
but when you zoom in, it's not. It's just
Okay.
like it's like leather pimples up and down her arm.
Okay. And again, this might be one of those instances. I don't know if you like in The Witcher. And again, they weren't that great, but they were better
Yeah.
in motion. But
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Nilfgaardian troops.
I never actually judge any of this until
Yeah.
I see them in motion.
Yeah. So again, like Koji, that shot on Koji with the rain and everything. That is a amazing shot.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, like I didn't know that dude was like my third favorite martial artist on screen until I watched Warrior.
So yeah, again, I was reading some of the comments and I thought people were going to say and G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra is going to be the best in the franchise. Like who would have thought? Like and they're saying that after seeing some of the stuff they're saying about this movie, dude. You haven't seen them. Just chill like Star-Lord said, chill the F out, okay?
Yeah.
It's like some people, the fact that he's going to show his face, they're already out.
Right.
And okay, that's fine. That's fine. Again, for me, I'm going to watch it. Is it going to be like the last two G.I. Joe movies bad? It could be. Or it could be pretty good. Who knows?
So.
But yeah, I'm not into it. Like you said, even though I read some of the G.I. Joe comics and I used to like G.I. Joe a lot. It's not that important for me.
I mean, I've picked up the IDW G.I. Joe books here and there when they're like I told you, I picked up the story arc where Cobra Commander had died and the Cobras were all competing to be the next Cobra Commander, and the way they were going to do it was by who could kill the most Joes. And in the first issue, Baroness, lured a bunch of Z-level Joes to a movie theater and then blew it up and killed them all. It was but yeah, that's how you start a crossover event right there. Like Marvel and DC need to pay attention. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm in a wait and see mode. This movie's been in production for several years. When Golding was first announced as Snake Eyes, I know people freaked out. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I just hope that when he does put on the mask, there aren't lips on it.
Yeah, that was the worst part of the G.I. Joe things with
that was like putting bat nipples on the bat suit.
Or the bat crack, the butt crack that was on the one. So
geez.
God, Jill Silver, why? Anyway, on that note, so this was our last news story here. Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings and the Eternals are apparently not yet approved and may not be approved for release in China.
This is kind of, I don't even it's kind of funny.
It's karmic retribution in a lot of ways, right? But so all right, so there's okay, one, fuck China. We need to stop making American films for the Chinese market. Plain and simple.
100%.
It's what has ruined storytelling in a lot of this stuff. We're Shang-Chi, I'm not going to speak for you. I have no thoughts either way on this one either. I'll see it. I don't know if I'll see it on the theater. I may wait until it's on Disney Plus for free at some point. but I'm not like super interested. And it's not because it's like an Asian actor or anything like that. It's because the character to me is relatively boring.
Yeah.
The only time I've really enjoyed Shang-Chi as a character is when he was teaching Peter Parker martial arts when he didn't have a spider sense. And that was because it was really fun to watch a regular guy kick the crap out of Spider-Man. I mean, honestly, it was great because like Peter was so used to like relying on that spidey sense for everything. You know, oh, my toast is about to burn. Oh, if I don't step here, I won't stub my toe. You know, I mean, like literally,
Yeah.
he was like abusing the power. So losing it was a stroke of really great storytelling. But like you know, the 10 Rings, that should have probably been an Iron Man story, mainly because they were, you know, the Mandarin was an Iron Man villain. Also, you know, there's just issues with some of the characters and things like that. But at the end of the day, this is what happens when you don't focus on your core audience. Because when you make movies for your core audience, but you make them accessible enough that like people can just like step in and learn about it, or more importantly, will go and see it and be like, I want to know more about this character. Let me go to Comixology. Let me go to my local comic shop. Let me go to my local bookstore. Let me see what's out there. That's what they should be doing with this stuff. It needs to be that symbiotic relationship of, you know, comics to movies, movies to comics, but not just mirroring what's happening on each within each, you know, medium.
Yeah. And you know, again, this is something else we talked about, and there was, I think it was Dark Side Reviews or something like that, made a video of the whole Black Superman thing. And one of the things I said, and I've said this to you, it's not the fact that some of these things are, say, changing races or changing genders or any type of swap they do. It's the reasoning behind it. It's it's all signaling to a smaller audience that doesn't buy your product.
Right.
And it's not for it's not because you want to be creatively different or have a kick-ass idea
Right.
of how to change this around.
And the hubris involved with you thinking you can change a 70-year-old character, the core tenets of a character is a special kind of narcissism and a special kind of creative bankruptcy, because I'll tell you right now, Brian Michael Bendis' best days are behind him. What he did to Iceman was a travesty. He very easily could have made a new X-Men that he could have made popular. If he cared and decided to actually write instead of be, you know, Twitter famous. You know, Ta-Nehisi Coates is creatively bankrupt. Creatively. Probably a little bit of moral bankruptcy as well, but definitely creatively bankrupt. And, you know, doing what he's doing is the worst kind of just divisive, just non-unifying decision that I could possibly think of.
Yeah. And to play that back to Disney, this is a company that did in was it Iron Man 3 or no, not Iron Man 3, Avengers Age of Ultron. They added a character for the Chinese audience, the scientist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but she's a character from Marvel.
Well, no, it's fine. No, that's fine, but they were and there's, I think that was it. They actually had made different scenes for China with extra scenes with her in there.
Okay,
That's
but
what,
she was Korean.
yeah.
That's the thing. Like,
yeah,
like it's what kind of pandering it is to China that you think anybody who looks vaguely
yeah. Oh,
Asian
absolutely.
from that region is going to be like, because I don't think you can't say like Oriental and like I don't know, like, because like Asian is such a broad term, right? There's people from Russia who are Asian. There are people from Turkey who are Asian. The Indians are Asian, you know, and so, you know, but thinking that anybody with that particular facial structure or whatever, and that's where like the other thing is like people are like, I don't know if it's Chinese people, but like people are complaining that the lead actor in Aquafina don't have like their traditional Chinese looking face, right?
Yeah.
And then the Eternals, it's the same thing. It's kind of like, okay, you're pandering to us, and we're not going to deal with this paternalistic, punching down at us. Just take your peddle your wares elsewhere, minstrel.
And why we find this so funny is because how Disney has behaved, and Disney and certain sects of their company, such as Lucasfilm, has behaved towards other people who didn't toe that line of, this is what we should do, this is what we should be. We've talked about that ad nauseum with Gina Carano and such. And Disney, who, with the Star Wars poster, when it was in China, what did they do to John Boyega's, John Boyega on the poster? So to see them get kind of their comeuppance in this regard, and again, that's just not to say that these movies won't be released in China. Let that be clear. It's just kind of curious that they were not on this kind of, I guess you would call, approved list, or again, because these movies, they're not coming out until September and November or something along those lines. So things can change. But I think I find it kind of funny that a company that has been doing this in the States and kind of doing what you just said, you should not be pandering to China in any way, shape, or form. I know you like money.
Yeah.
I know you like money, but when you do stuff like that, you lose what you just said, Brian, is you lose parts of your core audience. Because as much as I've loved the last 10 years of the MCU, we've both talked about it. Yes, I'm excited for Doctor Strange too. But am I excited for Shang-Chi? No. Am I excited for the Eternals? No. I'm pretty, honestly, to be honest, based on what we've seen, I'm pretty worried that well, I guess you would say Spider-Man Far From Home was the official end of that great run of MCU movies.
And that should, honestly, that should have been it for about 4 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded that. We talked about that.
They should have taken
a couple years ago.
Yeah, they should. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast a few weeks ago, or with Winter Falcon and the Captain Wolf. Anyway, like, yeah, I don't know. Here, so one of the issues is like the stereotyping, right? So in the article, there's from the Chinese region, based on the film's poster and trailer. Chinese speaking region has been critical, with many commenters in China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong agreeing that it seems prepared to deliver a quote rather end quote stereotyped end quote view of Chinese people and culture, full of kung fu, lanterns, pagoda, and the color red. These characters, created solely for the purpose of getting a slice of the big cake that is China's enormous box office. There is no soul in them at all. The hodgepodge Asian elements in the movie are unintelligible, one mainlander wrote. On both Hong Kong and Taiwan official Marvel YouTube channels, fans express similar frustration. It feels like this will be the same level of live action as the live action version of Mulan, one wrote, with expectations for authenticity. Liu, who was born in northern China and the northern Chinese city of Harbin, acknowledged but headed off his haters with a video message posted on Weibo late in April in Mandarin. He thanked the fans for his support and stating, "To all those other people who are earnestly hoping we will fail, I have nothing to say to you. Just wait and see." Again, we don't hope anything fails except for, J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates' Superman.
Absolutely.
But again, this is just, it's just such a weird position to take, right? It's such a weird. These are two just very strange movies to follow up. Part of the reason Ant-Man worked, because I forever I will compare any of these little one-off characters, D-list, C-list, X-list, YY list characters like Shang-Chi, and ZZZ list like the Eternals. Ant-Man is their bar. Can you tell that self-contained story about a character who's literally a joke on Saturday Night Live back in the 70s? Like, honestly, most people only knew who Ant-Man was because of that joke with I forget the comedian now, who had the big giant Ant-Man helmet, like the comic accurate helmet that was like oversized. Um, so yeah, I think China can honestly make a huge statement here by saying we don't want this. This is not the kind of affair we're interested in. These are not the kind of stories we're interested in. Keep your stereotypical uninformed movies back in America or elsewhere in the world. But at the same time, I think chasing the Chinese box office is just a very dangerous precedent for any of these studios to do, and they've all fallen victim to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's again, it's making a good product first. And I understand it's all about the bottom line with a lot of these people, and their idea, it's not making a good product, it's how can we make the most money, which and again, this is why they kowtow to China, is because they understand that China's that over the last 10 years, the box office hits that China has helped some of these movies get has been massive, because just their population growth and just their growth at the movies and such and stuff like that. So while I understand that, as a consumer, I want what I want good products. And again, if you make a good product, you're going to make the money. And that's what some of these studios do not get. They're more concerned about making the money when it's the money will come if you make a good product. That Look throughout history. And again, I don't mean just movies. Look at something like Apple, where their products, they make good products, and that's why they make money.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, Apple's whole thing is it just works, right? That's what they say.
Right.
I mean, that's not true. I mean, I'm fully immersed in the Apple ecosystem. It doesn't always just work.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just works most of the time. So it's good enough. Yeah, it's you're 100% spot on.
So yeah, and to your point, yeah, this could be a very big statement that China makes. And again, this is someone who has no love for China. And I don't mean the Chinese people. I mean, the way the Chinese government handles certain things. But that doesn't mean that in this case they couldn't be right. To say, hey, we don't need this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with them saying we don't need this or want this. It's pandering. It's insulting. Whatever. Like that is not being woke. That is being protective of your culture. And say what you will about the Chinese government, the Chinese culture is thousands and thousands of years old and beautiful and amazing. And it's not something to be mocked. It's not something to be parodied. It's
something to respect.
Yeah, and so
and admire.
Like, I mean that's why Bruce Lee is such a tragic character, right? Or tragic person of history. Is he wanted to bring the beauty of the Chinese culture to America, and I think he succeeded. I really do. But like, he did not meet the level of success that he should have. And again, it was obviously a much different time. But and he died much too young. But yeah, it's one of those things where we're in the middle of propaganda wars on many fronts. Whether it's from our own government, whether it's from other governments, whether it's China or Russia or whomever. It's one of these things where it's like, okay, we don't need to include any of that in our entertainment. Not at all. Just tell a story.
Yeah, because stories are, and it's not just movies and stories like that, but it's also sports, and it's look, and the idea is, and why do you think some of these ratings are going down? Is because people are immersed in the real world every day, all day. And for those 2 or 3 hours, whether it be a movie or a game, we want to get away from that. And if you don't understand that, I don't know what to tell you. If you're okay with being immersed in life, and when I say life, I mean the negative aspects of it and the hardships of it 24/7, first of all, you're not going to be mentally healthy. That's just full stop. You're not going to be healthy because you need escapes. Why do you think you need vacations from work? Why do you think you need weekends or downtime?
Right.
It's because you need that decompression, whether it be an hour at the gym or run around a 2 mile run. When I watch sports, when I watch movies, when I watch TV shows, I want to escape from some of the news that I see on a daily basis. And I'm not the only one. We're not the only ones, I should say. The majority of people feel that way, and with sports at least, they're showing it by the viewership numbers going down, down, down.
We're not going to see $1 billion movie again for 10 years.
Yeah, you said that before, and the more I think about it, honestly, I can't disagree with that. Just because, for various reasons. Again, like some of the stuff having to do with COVID and the lockdowns and so many theaters closing their doors permanently. How Hollywood has handled this, and some people aren't going to want to go to theaters, and some people just aren't, for various reasons. Again, it doesn't matter the reason, but it's and again, I'll still go, but at the same time, I'm probably gonna be more selective of what I go to the theaters to see now too.
Yeah, I'm not just gonna go because it's Saturday morning anymore.
Yeah, and that's what we would do. Like, I would be like, hey, I have Friday. Yeah, I take a Friday off and I'd go see a movie.
I mean, we've done that for since 2008. Yeah. You and I have taken at least one Friday every summer off and gone to a movie. And lately we've been like, well, let's just meet on Saturday and go do lunch and go to a movie. And we went and saw. We only did a double feature once where we went and saw Scott Pilgrim and then then went to lunch, then watched The Expendables. And it's just one of those things where I don't think the quality of entertainment is coming out of Hollywood right now that is really worth that time effort. Forget. I don't care about the money. Like an $8 movie ticket isn't a big deal. Or even a $15 movie ticket isn't that big of a deal. Because if you're talking in bang for your buck with entertainment dollars, you want to go see, a baseball game, you're dropping $150. Just for crappy seats. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. The priorities are so far out of whack. This morning I woke up and I watched that I Care a Lot movie with Rosamund Pike and Peter Dinklage. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but like Rosamund Pike's character, who is a predator and a con woman and, someone who willfully does harm, was upheld as the hero for most of the movie. And that was just a strange take, Mm-hmm. It's like that one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, I heard the same thing about that movie. No spoilers. I haven't watched it yet, but somebody had mentioned that I had seen online about that same thing you just said.
The first 50-ish minutes are really good. The only reason I watched it is because it had Diane Wiest in it, and I love her. She's great, and in the preview, she's like, you done fucked up, and it's like, all right, I'm in. I want to see a crazy Diane Wiest, and yeah. So anyway, all right, let's just stick a fork in this one right now, and we'll keep an eye on what's happening, with all of this. All right, so moving on to The Bad Batch, episode 3. Replacements. Directed by Nathaniel Villanueva, written by Matt Michnovetz. Sorry, dude, if I pronounced your name wrong. Yeah, so do you want me to do the summary like usual?
Yeah.
Okay. The damage to their ship from the escape from
Saleucami?
Saleucami, yeah, that's not right. The damage to their ship for the escape from Kamino causes the Bad Batch and Omega Is it Omega or Omega?
Well, she says Omega.
Well, they all
But
say Omega. But anyway, so Omega gets stranded on a moon. After an Ordo Moon Dragon steals their ship's power source, Hunter and Omega set out to retrieve it. Hunter is incapacitated, prompting Omega to continue the hunt alone. She tracks the dragon, and manages to retrieve the power source. On Kamino, Admiral Rampart introduces Tarkin to his unit of conscripted soldiers who will be commanded by Crosshair. Tarkin sends them to Onderon to wipe out Gerrera's camp. They do, though Gerrera escapes and Crosshair kills a mutinous soldier. Tarkin is impressed and sees the potential for conscripted soldiers. This worries Kaminoan Prime Minister Lama, who has a plan to ensure Kamino stays relevant to the Empire. I'm sorry, I butchered all those words. I found everything that happened on Kamino and Onderon interesting. I found everything with Clone Force 99 in this episode boring, except for the fact that it looks like their inhibitor chips aren't quite as ineffective as we were led to believe.
Yeah, I really, I didn't find it necessarily boring, but I did find it lacking something. And I'm not sure what it was lacking for me.
Yeah.
I did appreciate. Oh, and there will be some spoilers here. I did, as he read the summary that gave spoilers, but I did appreciate how Wrecker, of all people, Wrecker was the one to have to be conscientious enough to make Omega a room.
Right.
In their ship.
Well, and when they were crashing, we're gonna die, we're gonna die, we're gonna die, and he looks at her, we're gonna be fine, we're gonna be fine, we're gonna be fine. So yeah.
And I really like the dynamic of how Omega is going to change. Okay, I'm just gonna call her Omega. It just sounds weird saying Omega.
Omega. Well, it's like Teak, Echo.
Yeah. Teak, Echo.
Rekka.
Yeah. So I really like the dynamic and. Yeah, the whole Moon Dragon stealing the power source and them finding out about like some of the stuff they're going to do with it. Now I think that is going to pay off, be very interesting, down the road. But for this episode, it was okay. But like what I was very interested in was the whole dynamic with Crosshair and the conscripted soldiers and what's happening with him.
So
I really was interested in that.
Yeah, there's been a ton of just speculation about some things in this episode that I don't know. I mean, you're steeped in lore. One thing is the thought process is the special clone they're talking about is Starkiller.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they're trying to make a force sensitive clone. There's people who are thinking that Wrecker is going to turn on the rest of Clone Force 99 because of his inhibitor chip. Because he banged his head and turned it on. I think those are all interesting points. I don't see this series as being anything that is going to mess or add to canon one way or the other too much.
Yeah. I think this will be more of one of those things where they give nice tidbits and maybe let you draw your own conclusions and point you in a certain direction. But I don't know if it would necessarily. And I actually like the idea of this being a little bit more self-contained with nods here and there to the larger world.
Just a little hat tip to the larger world is all we need. But
yeah,
I think I find it boring because it's so safe. Like they actually have the ability to take tremendous chances. And we saw a little bit about some of the chances they could take with Crosshair. But at the same time, I mean, by the time we get to episode 4, Star Wars, as I like to call it, The clones have been largely decommissioned and retired, and the 501st is one of the very few clone heavy units under Vader. And even then, when the first Death Star is destroyed, I mean that the group is essentially wiped out.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but then we know that Dr. Pershing in The Mandalorian has the Kamino patch on his doctor costume. Now he's not Kaminoan, so what's the story there? Like we may never find out, but it's fun to think about. Maybe he was a scientist that the Empire set there to learn their ways, or whatever. But we're about to enter that third phase of clones, and I would like to see them being a little more daring with how they're handling it.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like what we were talking about a bit on Snake Eyes is you don't always need to look behind the curtain to see how someone got to where they are. And in this regard, we don't need all. Again, I love the mystery at times, not just with Star Wars, but other properties too, where you see those Easter eggs, but you don't always get that definitive connection. I'm fine with that, and yes, take chances because, again, this is a more this should be, at least in my opinion, more of a self-isolated series with. And again, you want to pay attention to the canon, obviously, and don't screw things up. But there's plenty of chances you can take here, and yeah, this episode, at least not just this episode, but so far what we've seen, they haven't.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they won't, because again, we're only 3 episodes in.
Right.
So I don't get me wrong, I'm still enjoying what we've seen so far overall. I love I love Clone Force 90. I just love all the divergent personalities. But as far as a narrative goes, I do hope they go a little bit further than what it seems like they're going to go.
Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like I told you, I'm just kind of finding it boring. I do find myself typically wandering during the episode and having to rewind. It's not Rebels. It's not Clone Wars. It's something else. So I want to give it time. And to be fair to Rebels and Clone Wars, the first seasons of both of those shows are pseudo garbage, until close to the end of the season. So I'm being patient. I'm not like, oh, I'm rage quitting this. I still watch it every Friday when I get up and, all of that. But it's just, I'm yawning just thinking about it.
Well, we talked about this before in other shows. There oftentimes, and again, this is the first season of a show. Just because we've met the Bad Batch before and some of these other characters before, this is still season 1 of a show. And there are plenty of shows, whether it be live action or animated, that hey, season 1 is where the writers and the showrunners, they're trying to find their footing or what direction they want to go. So as much as we want a little bit more from this show, we also understand that, hey,
Yeah.
there's going to be some hiccups here and there. That just always happens, almost always happens in the first season of a show.
So a lot of people also thought they were talking about the Bad Batch as the clones that they need to get back to create their super clone. And I think it's Omega. I think she's a Force sensitive clone. And if she's not, that's fine. But I think that would be very interesting to see Pershing's work with the M count, as they say in The Mandalorian, started in this series. I also think it would be interesting to maybe see the Kamino turn on the Empire a little bit and create some things as fail safes, if you will.
Which would be, in that position, if I was that prime minister, it makes good business sense
Yep.
to have something in your back pocket because, again, they want to be relevant, and we know what type of actions the Empire will take on or on something or someone they find irrelevant or unnecessary. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I also think this kind of what's been happening in some of these cartoons is the assassination of Wilf Tarkin as a badass. Um, he just seems so very short-sighted in all of this. Like, we don't need the clones. The clones are too expensive. It's like, yeah, but he's the kind of Admiral Moff, who is interested in domination and having, his own corner of the universe, not just obeying what Palpatine tells him to do. Um, I like the addition of Rampart. I think Rampart would have been a nicer addition, free of Tarkin in this series. I think the overwhelming looming of Tarkin's shadow would have been a better use of the character.
yeah, I could see that.
And, yeah,
and yeah, to your point about Tarkin, what better way to yes, they might be expensive, but what better way to ensure loyalty than, again, we've seen that what you can do with clones from a
right.
almost a programming standpoint. And as what do you see here with the soldiers, with the conscripted soldiers? One of them has a conscience and says, "Hey, this isn't right. Why these people are prisoners? They are not soldiers.
Right.
I'm not going to kill these people."
Tough.
Yeah. And
I'm going to keep saying Crosshair is the most effective member of Clone Force 99 until someone in Clone Force 99 who's not Crosshair proves me wrong. Like, I'm actually surprised all of them survived any mission, without his help.
Yeah, without Overwatch.
It's an important position.
Yeah. So again, yeah, this is probably so far, because this was actually, I think, the only episode. I mean, again, I know we're only in week 3, but this is episode 3. This is the only one where I actually had to pause it because I was getting kind of, well, anyway, it was sleep issues, but also it was just not keeping me super engaged, especially the first one. The first episode really kept me engaged all the way through. Second episode was a little bit of a slowdown, and this one, it slows down a little bit more. Doesn't mean it doesn't have good part aspects to it, but again, it's out of the first 3, this one dragged the most for me.
I liked the second one just because it was a deep cut from the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
I felt special for like, calling that, but yeah, it's here's the thing: is it's not bad. It's good.
No, it's not.
It's good. It's just I'm just not invested in it. And then you look at the things that have been coming out, like the Bucketheads prologue for season 1 came out this week, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
I don't know if you watched it.
I did. Like, I watched the first couple of minutes of it, so I have to finish it up.
It's 12 minutes. It's so great. We need to review that. We need to do whatever we can.
Oh yeah, we could do that
to push that out. But yeah, it's here's the thing: is Tarkin is all we need conscripted soldiers, and Rampart is well, we need conscripted soldiers, but we also need them managed by clones who are battle hardened and efficient, and it'll make everyone more efficient. And Tarkin is so racist isn't the right word, clonist. He's anti-clone. And he's been anti-clone. In the Clone Wars, when they dispatched the team to rescue him from the Citadel, he was anti-clone and he was anti-Jedi, save Anakin. Because in Anakin he found someone who had a lust for power and order. That rivaled his own. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just seems kind of like weirdly out of character for the way he's acting. But again, we're 3 episodes in. Um, but at this point, he's managing this, the Death Star, or Project Stardust, as it's known in canon now, and the TIE Defender program that Theron has going on Lothal.
So he's doing a lot.
So it's like, okay, like is he hedging his bets? Is he just that bad at managing what's happening under his particular fiefdom of the empire?
Yeah,
I don't know. At the end of the day, the Bad
don't know.
Batch did not have Tashi Station to find power converters, so they were lucky they were able to save the one that the dragon stole.
Yeah.
But all right, so out of dead conscripted stormtroopers, out of 5, what do you give this episode?
I give it a 3. I think sometimes when we look at stuff, and when I talk to people as well about how I talk about movies and TV shows, I gave this caveat that like says I'm sometimes a little bit more critical on stuff than the average watcher of shows and movies. And so when I give it a 3, that doesn't mean that it wasn't still enjoyable, because I did like a lot of it, but at the same time, it, like as I said earlier, the stuff with the clones, or not with clones, with Task Force 99, with Wrecker and all them on the ship, it just it was missing a note. It was like a musical piece where you can feel that something is off. It doesn't mean it's bad, but you can just feel like it's not on the level that it could be.
Yeah.
And so, despite some of the interesting stuff going on in the Kamino and how fascinating it is to watch Crosshair, and I'm just so enthralled to see where he goes, through this first season.
Yeah, that's the interesting story for me as well.
Yeah. So I just have to give it, it's my and again, when I say least favorite of the 3 so far, that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it. It just fell a little bit short for me.
Yep. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm right there
compared to the other episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you with a 3. I think, again, I still feel like the first episode should have been split into 2, so this should have been the 4th episode. And,
I agree. Yes.
And I think that pacing might have made the last 2 episodes a little different. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like, all the Crosshair stuff is great. Like, the stuff with the Bad Batch out in their broken ass ship is just kind of blah. It's like, okay, like we saw this with Han Solo, like having to fix things constantly. Like, let's actually show these guys to be badasses and capable and more than capable, where they actually are able to avoid the Empire, except for when they engage. I think especially the fact that they have Tech and Echo as 2 strategic masterminds with them, that shouldn't be hard.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So, cool. All right. Well, there'll be more next week. So, cool. No, the animation's great. The story is interesting, not compelling, but I think Omega is the kind of the big X factor. I think the simpler they keep her story, the more interesting it will be. If they try to get all convoluted with it, like, oh, she was cloned from Luke Skywalker's hand, and she's got a kyber crystal in her head. Like, that's like, okay, you lost me. So when she gets mad, she will open her eyes, and laser swords will pop out, and she will be the most unstoppable lightsaberist in the galaxy.
Is Abrams writing this?
Probably. God, that guy. Ugh. So, Anyway, all right. Yeah. Any last words or anything you want to add before we close out?
No, not really. Just looking forward to, and yeah, again, mentioned. Well, by the time everybody reads this, the trailer for Snake Eyes will be out. I'm looking forward to checking that out. But also, again, looking forward to seeing where they take Crosshair.
Yep.
And the next time he meets up with his former team, that's what I'm really looking forward to in the Bad Batch.
Yeah, it's funny. The two characters I care most about are Crosshair and Omega. And I don't care about Omega because she's a little girl clone, and if she's deemed as defective because she's a girl, I just think that is just hilarious. But I'm just interested because she's an unknown, and there's so few unknowns in Star Wars anymore, because of just the piss poor story group. That it's nice to see Dave Filoni able to surprise me, or surprise everybody, and it's like you said, it's not bad. It's actually very good. It's just kind of slow, and that part of that is it's a first season.
Yeah, and so I am really looking forward to seeing where we go in this first season.
So anyway, cool. On that note, go check out Bucketheads. Just type it into YouTube, Bucketheads. And there was a movie, a little short film from it's another 12-minute movie that they did in 2018. That is great. It's great. And yeah. All right, cool. Well, on that note, Darryl, anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, we will talk to you guys on Sunday. Have a good one. Bye. The Infamous Podcast is recorded in Kings Mills, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati. You can find new episodes every Sunday on Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, our website, or anywhere podcasts are downloaded. This show is hosted by Darryl Jasper and me, Brian Tudor. To find more information about the show, visit us at infamouspodcast.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Infamous Podcast to keep up with the show. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/infamouspodcast. We have some great rewards for our patrons and are looking for help to grow the show to bring you more of the content you want to hear. Music for this podcast is provided by Michael Henry from meetmichaelhenry.com. So, whenever you're listening to us, have a great day, night, evening, weekend, whenever it is, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.